A new study from the National Weather Service suggests that we're in for another summer of hotter than average temperatures. This after last summer's run of record-breaking heat. Joining us now is ASU climatologist Randy Cerveny. Randy, good to have you here. Thanks. Before we get into summertime and the winter, I sound like Bob Seger. I woke up to the sound of thunder this morning. What was going on?
Yeah, traditionally this is one of the driest periods in a typical Arizona year, but we had a rather potent upper level feature. It's called a shortwave that was working its way through the state, and it was enough to trigger some very isolated showers around the valley even.
And thunder. I mean,
thunder.
Okay, all right, go past it. Let's talk about the summer here. The signs from the National Weather Service, they're saying the signs, not so good.
Not so good, although actually New Mexico looks a whole lot worse than we do. They're going to be extremely hot and dry. We're just going to be hot and dry. So
yeah, I think we have a map here of summer temperatures, the forecast here, and but again, if we're above that, I mean, there we go. And yeah, look, boy, my goodness, New Mexico and most of Texas, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Why is this happening?
Well, what they're saying is that basically we're going to have a large high pressure system that'll push moisture not into the typical monsoon flow, but instead it'll be going up around into Oregon and Washington. It's part of the long-term pattern that we call La Nina.
Yes, and so and La Nina, it's happening, isn't it?
It is happening. We've had a pretty good winter that was associated with El Nino that gave us some precipitation.
Yes.
But now by summer, we're definitely going to be into that colder period in the Pacific that's called La Nina.
And that means what for the summer and what for the winter?
Well, the effects on summer by El Nino and La Nina are not as clear cut. The monsoon is driven by a lot of local factors. And that's one of the things that I'm somewhat hopeful for when I look at a temperature map like this. If it gets really hot into Texas and New Mexico, that might just actually force some moisture up from the Gulf of California.
I was going to ask about that because it seems like we've talked about this all the time. You got to get those crazy high temperatures to get some of that moisture coming up. If we get so much of these crazy high temperatures, how come we're not getting more of a monsoon out?
Yeah. Well, if we look at the temperature outlook here,
yes.
I don't know if we have that available.
You want the winter temperature or the monsoon? You want
the monsoon.
Yeah, let's get the monsoon map up there because
there we go.
Okay, come on.
And again, it's showing that primarily the dryness is going to be in New Mexico and Texas. We're dry, but I'm hopeful that we'll get at least some moisture that's going to be coming up from the Gulf of California. And a lot's going to depend on whether we have hurricanes off on the west coast of Mexico. Under La Nina, that's not as common. We're going to have more hurricanes out in the Atlantic this year. But we might get enough moisture to give us some monsoon this year.
It still looks like a wimpy monsoon there, Randy. It does not look very convincing.
I'm trying to put the best face on it as possible.
So the hot temperatures don't always mean you're drawing up that moisture from Mexico.
Right, because you have to have the moisture.
Yes.
And you can draw up as much as you want from Mexico, but if there's no moisture down there, particularly in the form of things like hurricanes, we don't get it pushed up into Arizona.
Let's talk about, again, La Nina. Obviously, as you mentioned, this impacts the winter a lot. We saw it El Nino. What a wonderful winter we had as far as El Nino was concerned.
Exactly.
But now here comes La Nina, and I think we have this is the winter.
This is
the winter one.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it doesn't look all that hot for us.
No, it really doesn't. And this is what we would call classic La Nina type of formation, where the moisture goes up into Oregon and Washington. The Northwest gets a lot of moisture, and the Southwest, particularly Arizona and New Mexico and Texas, get nothing. So we're forecasting, unfortunately, a really dry winter for this next year.
And again, I think I've asked you this many times before, but when you have an El Nino, how much of that spills over into the following year? When you have a La Nina like that, does it spill over, or do those Pacific temperatures just do what they do?
They have a mind of their own, but what we've noticed in recent years is that they've been more long-lasting. So if you remember, prior to this last El Nino that we had this winter, we had 3 years of La Nina.
Yes.
And the last one of those turned out to be really wet for us, kind of bizarrely. But La Nina is the one that tends to occur more frequently. La Nina for us means dry. So that's a bit of a problem.
And more predictable. We've had El Ninos that have been kind of poopy. I mean, they haven't done that much at all here. But La Ninas always seem to hold form, don't they?
Yeah, although as I say, 2 years ago we were in La Nina and we got everything. So it's still what happens here is the weather is still got a lot of unknowns associated with it.
Well, with that in mind, I want to ask you something about AI. It would seem to me that you could take, yearly patterns, monthly patterns, seasonally patterns, feed them into the computer ad nauseum, and you would come out with a way to forecast that would be pretty beneficial. Is that happening right now in the business?
It actually is. The Weather Service is really delving in a big manner into AI. Now, they're using it primarily as a forecasting reporting tool. They're taking all the products that they have and they're applying AI to writing a forecast for it so that we can get forecasts out faster than we have in the past. They're not yet using it as a forecasting tool to make a forecast, but they're taking the available information and having AI write it quickly so that it can be disseminated a lot faster to the TV stations and what have you.
Yeah, so that's relatively encouraging there.
Yeah, they are looking at this in a very, very big fashion.
So bottom line, headline is hotter than average summer, wimpier than average monsoon, and a drier than average winter.
Unfortunately, it's all bad news.
Wow, that's terrible, Randy. It's great having you on. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate it.